And 101 is exactly what we're aiming for today, the basics of the basics, a very sort of set up intro session, right?
Indeed. No prior knowledge necessary.
No prior knowledge necessary. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but exactly what we're aiming for today. And hopefully that's what our participants, the attendees here today, have signed up for. And so, with that, I'll get started. Paul mentioned that we have quite a lot of other materials on this, and so where I want to get us today is just as I said, really basic beginning introduction to what is possible with a custom algorithm. Why should you think about doing this? And then based on how that goes, we can help provide you with some more information in terms of where you might want to, things you might want to dig into next after that. So as Paul said, hopefully I can click on. My name is Katie Jones. I run Beeswax's business across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And so hi and welcome today. And so for the first section, I want to talk a little bit about the why and why you might want to consider a custom algorithm. And so it's worth pointing out that custom algorithms are not for everyone. Pretty much any DSP partner that you will work with, Beeswax included in that, will have a set of standard optimization services, or optimization solutions, optimization algorithms that they offer across everyone within those platforms. And those algorithms are generally really, really good for working on standard media metrics. So what do I mean by standard media metrics? I mean things like click-through rate. I mean things like completed video rate or video completion rate, VCR as we make an acronym of it. Those algorithms are really, really good. They're very effective because they learn that optimization layer is trained across everyone within the platform. And so that means that they have lots and lots and lots and lots of data that they can learn from. So within a regular DSP, you don't necessarily know how it works, but if what you really care about is CTR, you might not even really care about understanding what's driving the click-through rate, as long as the click-through rate is meeting your expectations. Similarly, many DSPs actually also offer a CPA algorithm, a cost per action or cost per acquisition algorithm. What can be more concerning here, it's not something that everyone is worried about. And again, it's the same sort of thing. If you're a smaller advertiser, you're working with smaller brand budgets, it's probably quite a good thing to learn based on everyone that is operating within that platform. However, if you think about it, if you think about two very similar brands, let's take two luxury automotive companies as an example. Within the same platform, they would have access to the same third-party data. They'll have access to the same inventory sources, and they'll have access to the same viewability verification partners. So the only way that they're able to differentiate in an auction, so say if I said automotive, so if we take Mercedes and BMW both running campaigns within their own seats within a DSP, but using the standard CPA algorithm, they'll have access to their first party data. So users who they know and recognize already, they might be able to treat in a different way. But for all of their prospecting activity, they're relying on the same sets of third party data, the same pools of inventory. And so if the algorithm is making the decision for them, they end up purely just competing head to head on every bid request on price. And that can be a problem in that it drives up the cost of your media and makes it harder to see performance because it's not you controlling those decisions. The person that, or the player, the entity that it's really good for is generally the DSP. Most other DSPs are operating on a percentage of media basis. So if you pay more for the media, then you end up paying more to the platform. So I think where it comes to a CPA-based objective, a lot of advertisers might actually prefer to be able to customize the algorithm in some way, in a way to better achieve their own specific objectives. I think a lot of people on the call may know this already, but Beeswax works in a very different way. We do have some optimization layers that you can use out of the box on day one, and anyone who's within our platform can use for those standard media metrics. But for anything in relation to CPA, we find most of our customers prefer to actually build out their own algorithms and control that. And so if you're not wanting to compete on price, and then what might it be that you might want to do within that? So some of the algorithms we've seen our customers sort of build out towards would be, instead of optimizing to just a standard CPA, did we see a conversion? They might optimize towards their own custom attribution model, and so take into account how their optimization, how their attribution model is going to attribute that conversion, how to make it count more. Instead of just looking at the CPM that they're achieving, they might actually want to take into account the quality of the inventory that they're buying. And so it might be a CPM based on the viewability and the price point in combination. We have other customers who might look to build out something completely different. Some studies have taken place that have shown with ads online that actually the more time a user spends with an ad, the more highly engaged they feel. And so we do have customers who've worked to build out algorithms to optimize their activity to cost per time, effectively trying to find routes where they can gain maximum sort of time-based exposure to the audiences that they care about. In a similar sort of way, looking at actually building out cost per engagement models, and even looking at building out a model to cost per offline sale. So if you are someone an advertiser who actually sells goods in a supermarket, in a retailer, in a newsagent, you might actually have sales data that you can feed back into that algorithm, so you can start to understand what are the online metrics that are driving that offline sale. So hopefully that's talked a little bit through the why you might want to do it. To reiterate, it's not always a good idea. If you really care about click-through rate and video completion, like stick with the out of the box algos, unless you've got something that you really wants to tweak there. But hopefully giving us a few examples of what sort of thing can be possible if you do start to sort of adjust those levers for yourselves. I wanted to come into a little bit more about how does it actually work. Honestly, an algorithm sounds really complicated, but what you're actually doing is kind of setting rules based on the types of things that your teams, whether that's within in-house or whether that's within an agency, the traders who are working on your campaigns are generally actually moving the dials, moving the cogs in the system behind the scenes to do some optimization. And when they're doing that, they're normally looking at one of these 4 areas, or perhaps combinations of these 4 elements. They're looking at the users that they're targeting and that audience data and how that is impacting the success of your campaigns. They're looking at the inventory factors. What is it that's making the difference? Which publishers, which browser types, which SSPs? Where are you seeing the most success in terms of those that inventory information? Quite often, that overlaying some element of time onto this. It may be that a particular set of users are really valuable at a particular day of week or time of day. It might also be that a particular set of users are really valuable for a period of time after they've done something. So for example, you might want to bid much, much higher to reach someone who's just been to your website, but bid much lower if they actually haven't visited your website for 30 days. And then finally, I think there's been a lot of coverage over the last year or so around bid shading, but supply dynamics come into this a lot as well. And what we mean by that really is sort of how much is this impression worth right now in the context of what everyone else is paying for it. You can see my my festive setup behind me. We've just come through Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Those are probably 2 days where, if you're not a retailer, you're not you're not trying, you don't have any Black Friday deals, then actually it might not be sensible for you to be running your campaigns in that time, or you might want to really reduce your spend because the general price of inventory, the market dynamics are such that there is so much more competition around those days that you might want to adjust that strategy. And so thinking about those 4 elements, the who, the where, the when, and supply dynamics, really the money, you can start to build up an idea of what is it that is going to drive successful, positive results for your activity. And it's not just about any one of those results on its own, it's actually about the combination of those factors. So for example, it might be a user who isn't always in a group that is super valuable. You might still want to bid if you think you can actually win them at a price point that is going to be effective for you. So just as in optimization, an algorithm is effectively the set of rules that is determining the bid that you're going to place into the auction for the chance to serve an impression. And you may also want to use it to control the creative and the message that you serve based on that same combination. And Beeswax actually provides a range of different ways for you to share your custom algorithm with us. We start out with, I mentioned, we do have standard strategies, just like a regular DSP. You can set those up and it works as a full-blown DSP on day one. We have bid modifiers where you can adjust some of those factors, but one factor at a time. And we wouldn't normally talk about that as being an algorithm per se, but it's starting to think about that same logic. And those modifiers can be very, very simple. Just if it's a bigger format, I want to bid higher than if it's a smaller format, and adjust your bid based on those rules. So you're starting to create some rules, but it's not necessarily combining those. Where we get through to the right-hand side of this slide, looking at bid models and a bidding agent, this is where you actually can build out those rules and combine those different factors and use that combination of those factors to set the price that you want to move ahead on. So I'm going to come into bid models in a bit more detail, but just so that we don't miss it off. Bidding agent is what Beeswax is sometimes known for. It's effectively that code level control. So you're actually developing your own algorithm, hosting it yourself, and just telling us the answer that you get based on when you see the bid response, the bid request, in order for us to put in then the bid response. Bid models, however, are slightly different. I like to think about them as just really, really complicated Excels. So effectively, what you're doing in a bid model is taking of the sort of the factors that we see in a bid request. There's different who, when, where, and that inventory signals. Taking those into account in combination, and then specifying what exactly is the price that you want to bid based on that combination. So you're not just multiplying or setting a value if one factor is true, but you're chaining those things together and controlling the combination of those factors. And that's something that, again, you would build out in a very big Excel. You can import it into Beeswax as a CSV. And then when we see a bid request, we're looking up that bid request against that table of rules, effectively, to find the matching combination, and then to follow your instruction around the bid, the value that you want to place for that bid, for that impression with your bid. And so, coming into a summary briefly, hopefully we've demystified it a bit in this very brief 15-minute session today. A custom algorithm is not rocket science. It's an ability for you to influence the price that you are willing to bid for any given impression based on what objectives you want to achieve. And so if we look at, as the final slide, just how you might think about that as a definition. Now, my final slide here today is actually the very first slide in a presentation just like this, a 15-minute webinar that my colleague Alex did just over a month ago now. I think, Paul, you might be able to put the link in the chat now, but hopefully, based on what we've talked about today, this definition it kind of makes a bit more sense. So a custom algorithm, I can't even say it today, being a multivariate mathematical model. So what it means is you're taking lots of those different parameters, lots of those different items, and stringing them together with lots of different variations. It's using historical impression and conversion data. So you're going to build it out based on what you know about what works for your campaigns and for your needs. And you're doing that in order to predict the likelihood of future impressions leading to specific outcomes. And just as we talked about, that outcome might be a CPA, it might be something completely different. So if you want to know more, go watch Alex's webinar, and you will see this as his first slide, and he goes to just another one level more complex on how it would work and what you might be able to achieve.
All right. All right. Thank you, Katie. So let's dive right into the Q&A, as we do try to keep these things brief. So no time for banter. First question, within Beeswax, what specifically can you customize with algorithms? Can you set a user-specific base bid? Can you algorithmically update bid factors? Something else?
This is a really good question. I feel like this is meant for 201 or 301. But thank you so much for the question. Within Beeswax, it varies a lot depending on whether you're using the bid models product, so effectively the table version that I talked about, or whether you're using a custom bidding agent. within a custom bidding agent, you can absolutely take into account your user-specific base bids. Looking at bid models, there are other ways that you might do that. Looking at segments and sort of cohorts of users. What I would love to do is send you a little bit more technical documentation that you can dig through, and perhaps arrange a follow-up call so we can go into the user level piece in more detail. And then, can you algorithmically update the bid factors? That's the multipliers. Yes, you can. You can put in those rules to specify the value of the combination of parameters, either as a multiplier. So if we see that it's this exchange, this publisher, this device type, and this operating system, multiply by X, or you can say with all of those combinations, it's actually bid wise. You can either determine a multiplier or a specific bid for that combination. And if I remember correctly, the table can take into account up to 50 different parameters, in terms of 50 of those different parameters that you are looking at. And there's actually no limit to the number of rows. There's a limit in the weight of the CSV file, but we do permit multiple CSVs to be uploaded. So I'd love to dig in a little bit more to that question offline, just to send through some more documentation and perhaps find out a bit more about the specific use case here.
Great, and I'll pass along
exactly onto the right thing.
Yeah. All right, I will
Thank
pass you along the details of that person without naming them here. Next question. I have a campaign with different segments. Can I use Beeswax also to bid differently for each segment?
Yes, absolutely. That's something that does come up quite often. And again, there are different ways that you might want to approach that, but and different ways you might want to bring those segments to us. So again, that's one that I would love to follow up on offline.
Great. And then the last question, do I have to learn any special language to be able to build an algorithm, i.e., or the way you have to with Xander? You have to learn Bonsai.
That's a very specific question. But yes, so most other DSPs do have a very specific way that they want the algorithm to be coded. With Beeswax, we don't. When I'm saying it's like an Excel, it's a CSV, or it can be a CSV. If you're using bid models, you're literally uploading that CSV file to our system. So quite often a customer will code their algorithm in whatever language they like. Node is one that comes up a lot. It really is up to them. They just need to be able to export it into the platform.
Right. Last question. Can I change the bid factor directly in the dashboard instead of CSV, I think they mean, import usage?
Yes, of course. So all of the functionality that we have within Beeswax is available via API, as well as within our own UI, within our dashboard. And so, yes, you can adjust your bids if it was specifically for a segment. You can do that within the UI. What you can't do currently within the UI is change that bid model. That has to be uploaded as a CSV. So if you wanted to update different things in combination, at the moment that does have to be controlled via the upload or via the API.
Mm-hmm. And we got one last one, a follow-up from the same questioner, right under the wire. I'm using a campaign with a list containing different deal IDs. Can I use an algorithm to support different prices for the deals?
So Oh, that's a really good question that I think I'm actually going to have to follow up with one of my colleagues to answer. But actually, I skipped over one thing when I was presenting the different levels of optimization that we have. There was one in the middle that you might have noticed, which is called delivery models, that I think would be very interesting for the person who's asked this question,
Yes.
because a delivery model allows you, a bit like a bid model, where you are setting up a combination of rules and then determining the bid price. A delivery model enables you to do the same thing, set up a combination of rules, but to deliver, to instead control the delivery rather than the price point. And so where we see that being really, really useful is with customers who perhaps have a number of deals that they want to prioritize. And so in that scenario, you can effectively create a set of rules which is saying, I want to spend 30% of my budget on this list of deals. I want to spend another 40% of my budget on this other, I don't know, different list of deals. And then there's actually 30% of my budget. Have I done the math right? Hopefully 30% of my budget that's left I want to spend on open marketplace or this other set of deals. Historically, within a legacy DSP, you actually have to, as a trader, go in and set up a separate line for each of those with separate budgets. And then you have to manually push the budgets to get that delivery to occur. With Beeswax, with using that delivery model product, you can actually set the rules that it will deliver as much as possible to the rules that you've set, while still ensuring as much as possible delivery in full. So we wouldn't let that model make you under deliver, but if it's possible to deliver it with that split, and it's, God, I wish I'd had that when I was trading, because it would have saved me so much time. So hopefully that's something else that we might be able to dig into with that question after this call.
Great. And with that, I have sent out a link to the delivery models webinar from our YouTube channel to everybody. So just look in the chat for that link if you'd like to learn more about delivery models. And also with that, that is the end of this 15 minutes with Beeswax. Katie, thank you so much for walking us through this 101 intro course. Again, the YouTube link to the 102 course from Alex from our team is in the chat. And until next time, if we don't see you until then, everyone have a very safe holiday and enjoy the time off. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.